All right, so here's our penny. Here's our emitter added to the scene. So let's get this set up so we can just have a little wall of pennies and you can make your nice commercial for your client. Because I've had to do this plenty of times. We're going to select the emitter in the object manager, go to attributes, and under coordinates, let's do a -90 rotation. So it's facing down. Okay, you can see the particles just shooting downwards, which is great. Okay, let's give this about 120 frames. Let's go more. Let's be daring. 160. Move that like that. All right, let's position this up in the scene. Doesn't really even matter necessarily. Press the O key to fit it to view, and we'll zoom out a little. And then let's go to the emitter and increase the width of it here. Okay, it's kind of important to do this because even though you could size it, this is actually going to work more efficiently for the particles. It's going to actually change the generator shape rather than the size of the particles. And then we can narrow this a little bit too. And that way we have just this nice little wall of particles coming down. Okay. Now, as I showed you, you can change some of those values, some of those parameters for the amount of particles. I'm actually okay with this default value here. That's working just fine for us. But what's not is the actual life and everything else. Okay, so we've got 150 meters on the speed, and I think that's okay. Want a little variation on that. So some are going a little bit more than others. It's really important. So you see some are going a little faster than others now. You want that variation. The lifetime is set to 600. Now everything's looking really pretty good. So I'm going to take the cylinder and we're going to name this penny, just so we're clear. We're going to drop that onto the emitter. Select the emitter, go back to particle and hit show objects. Okay, so now we have pennies falling. I want to take that and rotate each of those so that they just kind of tumble a little. And then we're going to put maybe about a 50% variation on there. So I have these nice tumbling pennies. The problem with this is that they're too big. All right, so we want those to actually be a little bit smaller. So we're going to select the penny, that initial penny, go to scale. And what's cool about this is that you can actually do that in real time, and all of those other pennies are updated. Okay, that one disappears, of course, because it's using all of the clones that it's generating rather than that original, but it still references that original one. Okay, so now, without much work, you actually have a very cool looking scene. We'll do a save as, and we'll call this penny particle. You can load that up and take a look. That you can render out. So let's take this a little bit further. We're going to incorporate our animation capabilities throughout all this. First thing I'm going to do is go to a top view. Going to rewind. Going to select the emitter and create a keyframe for it. And then at not 160, but like it maybe 600. Let's do this. Let's go to 600. And I'll show you what I'm going to do. I'm just going to actually drag the slider this time because I don't want to use all of this. I'm going to select rotate for this emitter. And I'm going to rotate it just about like that and create a key at 600. Now, even though our scene is only 150 frames, that's all I really want. Let's get our scene back here like that. Okay. The reason I created a very long keyframe is because I just want a very slow rotation. Okay. So that if I decide to actually increase my frames, I know that that's slowly rotating all the way. And if I go back to my perspective view, now I have just even a little more variation in there because the emitter is allowing those particles to just spread out a little bit. So often you're going to create a keyframe way beyond your actual scene, but it allows you to create a nice slow moving motion. All right, so we've got that. Now we can put a background on, and we're just going to use a background object here. But for this background, rather than what we did before using a default color, we're going to actually turn this on. And we can put just, we're going to go a little blue here this time. Kind of like that. Put that blue in there like that. That'll work a little bit better for us. The other thing you do too is you can actually put a gradient on the backdrop. But we're going to do that with the animated cells, which is a variation of this exact same technique we're doing here. For this render, I'm going to come down here and get to the point where I can see a bunch of these. And let's come down here like this. We'll rotate up. And this is just going to be a quick render. We can actually put a camera in there, but just so you can see that on the background. Just like a pennies from the sky. So everything's looking really pretty good. And it's just a very easy way to do some cool animations, to add some effects. You can render it out with a compositing, so that if you want to put it over another animation, that can work really well for you. You can put a little more reflection on there just by opening these up and adding reflection, just so it reflects the environment a little bit. You certainly don't have to do it that bright, but you put a little reflection on each of these. That's just going to add to their look quite a bit, especially if there's other things going on in the scene. So as they tumble and turn, they'll be reflecting the environment. So I'm going to save that scene, and let's move on to the next video, and we'll do our blood cells.